Yes, we are live on YouTube. We are live on the website mvtonline.com. Good morning, everybody. Everybody on this Saturday morning, a little bit earlier than usual. But it's going to be a very interesting podcast because we got an NFL former star here, Searcy, and we are actually going to talk about his life story. A lot of his accomplishments, because we are actually finishing up his autobiography, which will be coming out very soon, hopefully next month. And the title of the autobiography is Fourth Down and Damn, a lineman story.
Yeah.
So welcome this morning here, Searcy.
Glad to
How
be
are
here.
you?
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
How was your drive up here?
I've always been a big fan of the outdoors. I like to get in my car and just drive and travel and just stay. No music.
Yeah.
Just gives you a time to reflect. Hey, exactly.
Yeah, you need
We'll
that.
stop,
Yes. Very good. So we're just going to go through this, right? And so people can learn a lot more about you. And they kind of have a little bit of preview of what's going to be in the book too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first of all, Leon, where were you born? When were you born and where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Well, I actually grew up in Washington, D.C. I don't remember the name of the hospital, but I was in City Line Towers. It was like a 30-foot building, projects basically. All right, it was a project. Now, if you go there now, D.C., they're all luxury condos. But when I was there as a little kid, it was pretty much the projects. But I was born in D.C. I was raised in Maryland. I lived in Landover, Maryland, next to this place called the Capitol Center. So I moved from Maryland to Orlando. So mass majority of my life I spent in Florida.
In Florida. When did you move to Orlando? How old were you?
I moved to Orlando when I was about 10 years old. My mom
old.
and dad, my mom actually got a job. She was a school teacher up in Maryland. She got a better job down in Orlando. And my dad got the same thing at the airport in Orlando. So I moved from D.C., from Maryland.
When you were 10 years old?
About 10 years old.
Tell me a little bit more about your mom and your dad.
Well, my mom and my dad both grew up in the rural areas of the South. In a particular time where it was hard on Black people back in those times, right in segregation, Jim Crow laws and everything. And I just remember my mom and dad being able to reflect when they were real young, how they experienced that kind of racism early on. So both of them being, all about civil rights and equal rights for everybody. I grew up in a household where, I want to say they were hard on me, but they made me understand a sense of myself and a sense of history and take a pride in who I was.
That is very good.
Yeah.
What was the most memorable? You probably have many, but if you have to pick one memorable moment of your childhood.
Memorable moment of my childhood? My love for football.
Yeah.
I remember because when I was in D.C., I was a big Washington Redskins fan. And I lived about 20 minutes from the Redskins RFK Stadium, but I never had the opportunity to go to the game. But I used to always wear their jackets and sit down and watch the game. My dad was a Cowboy fan, so he couldn't stand.
Did he watch it with you, the Redskins?
He did watch the Redskins, but the reason why he didn't like the Redskins initially is because it goes right back to the segregation part.
Yes.
One of the owners of the Redskins made it very known that he wasn't going to have any Black athletes on his team. So my dad didn't like him because of that.
Of course,
he became a
that
Cowboy
makes
fan.
sense.
But what I used to do is me and my dad used to sit down and watch the TV and watch the games. And then the next morning when I had to go to school, I reenact the plays, trying to impress Listen, I was trying to impress the girls, all right? It was girls that were sitting in front of the bus, all right? So all of us were watching the game, so we would reenact the big plays in the games, jumping over the seats, catching the ball and all that kind of stuff. So, I was a bit of a actor way back then.
That's good. That's nothing wrong. That's nothing wrong with that. So let me get this right. So while you were living in DC, at the time there were no Black players on the Redskins team?
No, my dad, the initial owner of the Redskins.
Oh, okay.
Before he had mentioned,
even before then,
he had mentioned that he would never allow.
So it's about the roots and about
the roots of the team. It had nothing to do with what the team was doing now.
Okay.
The initial roots of it.
So did you get introduced to football through your dad while you're watching the Cowboys, or just because you grew up and all the boys were playing football in the street and you were watching the Redskins?
We played outdoor football, right behind the projects and where I lived in. We were always instrumental in playing some kind of pickup football. Everybody on the field had little nicknames, Truck, Black, Jet, Big Sirs, all that kind of stuff. So I grew up where we huddled and we drew plays in the dirt. This particular route, that particular route. And because I was a big kid, I never played receiver or running back. I was always a lineman.
Yes.
Either offensive, defensive lineman. But we had fun, even as a kid, so it was etched in stone pretty much that I was going to be an offensive lineman. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed those days, out there playing tackle football in the dirt, all that kind of stuff. We didn't have the manicure fields like they have now.
Sure.
The playgrounds had dirt and mud and puddles and creeks along the side of it.
Probably
but we made the most of it.
Yeah, probably a better preparation anyway. So
we made the most of it, absolutely.
And then you moved to Orlando. How did you eventually end up playing in high school? Because obviously we've been working on autobiography, and it seems like there was a little gap, and you really weren't interested in playing in high school until. Yeah. Can you explain a little bit what happened in high school and how you got on the team eventually?
Well, this goes back to my mom. My mom was an educator, so I wasn't a bad student. I was a decent student, but my mom knew that I didn't work hard. That pretty much I got by on just being smart, and I didn't dedicate myself to school. So my mom told me in high school that I couldn't play sports until I had a 3.0. I was unheard of back in the day when you only needed 2.0 to play sports.
Yeah.
So I had a 3.0. So you can only imagine being one of the bigger kids in high school and never playing sports. First of all, you get no women, no girls, no look at. That's first and foremost. So 10th grade, 11th grade year. So we're going into my 11th grade year, and what I used to do, I used to get off the bus and have to walk to pick up my sister and walk her home from school. So this one particular day, I was walking to pick up my sister. My mom just happened to be there. She didn't see me behind her, and she was talking to another teacher, telling the teacher that Leon has good grades, but it's going to be hard on us sending him to school. So she didn't hear me, and I heard her. So the next day, I go to school. I'm walking in the hallway. There's this recruit. There's this a recruiting guy from LSU. He thinks I'm another guy. He said, "Oh, you such and such guy?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you play football?" I said, "No." He said, "Why you don't play football? You big enough?" I said, "No, I'm just not interested." He said, "Well, are you interested in getting an education?" I said, "Yeah, I'm interested in it." He said, "Well, if you play football, you get a free scholarship to school." And then right there, the light bulb went on. I was like, okay. I just heard my mom say she couldn't afford to send me to school. So I'm gonna go out for football.
And he says if you play football,
you can get an education. Absolutely. So I still wasn't sure, but about a week later, I was on the basketball court and I was running up and down playing pickup basketball. And I went up for a rebound. And after I went up for the rebound and I tossed and started running, my high school coach named Coach Gerke runs out onto the court and asks me again. He said, "Hey, who are you? Are you new here?" I said, "No, Coach." I said, "I'll be a senior next year." He said, "Wait a minute, you've been here 3 years. You ain't not playing football?"
Play any sport.
He said, "Well, you're going out for football." So I had the recruiting to have my coach. So something right there gave me the sign that I should be playing sports.
Very good. So then you wanted to be on the high school football team. I imagine you're kind of lacking some training and experience. So how did you catch up with everybody else, and how did you become a starter as a senior?
Well, what I did is once I decided I was going to play football, I used to catch the bus home. And some days I didn't catch the bus home. I lived maybe about 3 miles away from my house. So some days I would catch the bus. Other days I wouldn't catch the bus and I would run home.
Yeah.
We had the sidewalk. So what I would do is I would sprint one sidewalk and then walk the next and sprint the next sidewalk and walk the next sidewalk.
Kind of a block sprint, a block
exactly.
walk.
There you go. So I used to run blocks.
There's your interval training right there.
And then when I got home, I did my chores and did all my homework, but then I had this garage inside at my house, and it was blazing hot. They hardly had any windows. And I used to go out there, and I used to jump rope and do sit-ups, push-ups, all that kind of stuff. Then eventually for Christmas, I told my parents about my weight room set. So I started training on my own. So everything I did was self-made. I didn't have anybody to motivate me. I didn't have any friends. So I had to motivate myself to go out there. If I'm going to be serious about football, then I got to dedicate myself to it.
So then you got in shape yourself. Then the tryouts were there, I guess, to get on a team. So how did that go then?
Well, I can tell you,
never played football.
I remember the first day. I remember the first day we had the first day of football practice. I remember I was in 7th period, and that whole day, all I thought about was failure. I thought about what if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I get to 7th period. The bell rings. I'm walking outside the school. To my right is the football stadium where all the kids are walking to the football. And I'm nervous. All right. So I'm walking down the sidewalk, and in front of me, right in front of me, was my school bus to go home. And I looked to the right, and I looked at my school bus, and I initially stepped on my school bus. I was on my school bus, but something in my spirit said, get off the bus, go to football practice. So I got off.
Defining moment, right?
Exactly, because there's no telling where my life would have been. Because
Yeah.
if you got on that bus once,
Yeah,
you would have got on the second time, and the next thing you know, football would have been gone. So I did. I went to get to football practice. I was nervous because I was a big kid, but I wasn't a fit kid. And initially, when I got there, I was a third string nose guard. One of the guys who used to play both ways got hurt.
Yeah.
And they moved me to offensive line. They ain't moved me. They said, Searcy, play line. They didn't have any real high expectations for me, but I told myself, y'all move me over there and y'all give me a chance to play. I said, I ain't never coming off the field.
Yeah.
And
that's what happened. Awesome. Now, while you were in high school and playing, you suddenly got a lot of letters from college, but your mom told your coach to hold those back. What was the story behind that?
Mom knows me. My mom knows me well. That's why she did it. All right. So we finished spring ball, and I had 2 letters. My first 2 letters I ever got at college was Florida A&M and South Carolina State. So I felt, in my opinion, I had already accomplished my goals. I got 2 teams that say they want me to come. So my high school coach asked me right after spring ball. He said, Leon, what are you doing? What are you doing this summer? I said, I ain't doing nothing, coach. He said, I want you to come to summer school. I said, summer school? I said, back in the day, if you went to summer school, that means you weren't doing nothing throughout the whole year. So I went to summer school. I trained. Season comes around. I'm rock solid. I'm in shape, whatever. So we go off and we have a great season. And at the end of the football season, your high school coach comes up to you and says, hey, where have you decided to go? And guys in front of me or whatever. And I said, well, coach, I only got 2 teams looking at me. I said, I got Florida A&M and South Carolina State. So I said, I'm going to choose between those 2. He's like, no, you don't. I said, what do you mean, no, I don't? So he went behind his desk. He pulls out this box. And in the box,
all letters.
There's Miami, Florida State, Florida, LSU, Michigan, Nebraska.
Everybody,
all the elite teams in the country, because not only because I had a great senior season, but also had grades.
Yeah.
And I asked my mom to this. I said, Mom, why didn't you let the letters come to the house and leave it to the coach? She said, I didn't want you to get the big head.
Yeah.
She said, I wanted you to stay humble and focus on the season.
And that's probably why you trained much harder.
Exactly.
And got ready. Otherwise,
if I see
party time.
Exactly. I would. It's creature. You can become a creature of that. Of success. When you see letters and these teams or whatever, you might minimize. Your efforts. But I appreciate my mom to this day for doing that.
Well, yeah. I mean, she was a really good mom, doing the best for you for sure. So you ended up at the University of Miami. And as a Cane, you were a dominant starter for 3 consecutive years, and you never lost a home game at the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
Correct? You also were a key member of 2 national championship teams. There was 1989 and 1991. But you also were part of the 1987 one championship team as a freshman. Now, how did it feel to run onto the field as a freshman at that championship game? That must be a exhilarating moment.
It was. I mean, I don't know. Something about being a freshman at the University of Miami was exhilarating and also intimidating. I tell people all the time, the first time I walked in the weight room and saw those guys, first of all, I was starstruck because a lot of those guys I've been watching on TV.
Sure.
Secondly, I was intimidated because it was like a biker game when I walked in there. All right. So I was intimidated, but I understood. But my freshman year, I was going up against the very best players in college football. So I had no choice but to excel. But the way they won, the way they went about their business or taking care of business, that was the most impressive thing about the 87 season. So I wouldn't say I was surprised that we were playing in the national championship game, because I was taken aback. I mean, you're talking about the Orange Bowl, field to capacity with your home fans cheering for you for a national championship game. I know I wasn't playing, but just being there in that moment was exhilarating.
Awesome. Now, in 88, between the two championship wins, you lost the championship game to Notre Dame, 31-30. Very close. How disappointing was that?
Well,
and how did Notre Dame pull it off?
Well, they didn't beat us in the championship. They beat us in a game at their house. You know, we were the number 1 team in the country. They were like number 4, number 5, and it came down to it was a heavyweight fight. It was a back and forth.
31-30.
But what happened is that Jimmy Johnson. Now, if Jimmy Johnson had kicked the field goal, Miami and Notre Dame would have shared the national title that year because they both would have ran the table. But Jimmy Johnson told his coaching staff that we didn't come to South Bend to tie, we came to win.
Yeah.
So we went for the 2-point conversion, and they got knocked down, and they eventually won.
Yeah.
Which we gifted them. Notre Dame fans, if you're watching, we gifted y'all that 88 championship. So enjoy. But yeah, we gifted them that championship because we went for 2. But yeah, that was a tough loss. And I told people this all the time as well. If Notre Dame, if we had tied Notre Dame, we had both shared the national title that year.
So you would have another title.
I wouldn't have ran.
It's not the same.
I didn't like Notre Dame so much that we had tied for a national title.
Yeah.
I would not wear my ring.
Well, the year after you came back anyway.
Yeah.
You defeated them, and then you went on to play the championship against Alabama, and you won.
Yeah, it was. That was a big win for us.
Yeah. So would you think that 89 game, that's where really with that win, because you were one of the big stars in that game, is that when you really got your celebrity status?
Yeah, because 1989 was my first year starting. I struggled early on, but I gained confidence as we went on during the season, especially that Notre Dame game when we a little revenge factor that was involved and we beat them. So I came into my own in that game, and I had played because I was playing against a good team. So I knew going into the championship that I could compete at this level. So that Notre Dame game and that championship game really allowed me to blossom as an offensive lineman, and which was rare at Miami because they were known for their skill set.
So you mentioned before that when you were in a school bus growing up, trying to be the big man and reenact some plays to impress the girls. What about high school? Now you're a star. College. Now you're a star. You're in Miami. How was it with the girls then? Did you date a lot? Did you have a girlfriend? How was that going for you?
Well, yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
All right. So, well, on campus, University of Miami wasn't known for its women on campus, unlike it is now. I mean, we, most of the kids that were there weren't to the liking of football players. So most of the women that we dealt with were in the city.
Yeah.
In the city. So we met most of our young ladies out at the clubs.
Okay.
Sometimes out at the strip clubs or near the beach or at a convenience store. So, I mean, listen, here's the thing. We maximized the fact that we were winning football games in Miami.
Sure.
So wherever we went, we let people know, young guys.
Hormones right there.
We're letting people know we're hurricanes.
Yes.
And, being a hurricane in Miami during my time and era where we was winning, you never had a problem attracting the women.
Tell me a little bit more about Coach Johnson. How was he for you as a
Coach
mentor?
Johnson? Yeah. Coach Johnson is probably the best football coach I've ever had. And I've had some great ones. The reason why I say he was the best because he filtered in me early. I mean, he got me at a very young age. He got me at 17, 18 years old. And his commitment to winning football games is unparalleled. I mean, it's unparalleled. The practicing, the conditioning, the mental aspect of the game, the focus, the film study.
Even compared to your NFL coaches?
Even not even close.
Really?
Not even close. So I tell people this all the time. That I learned how to be a champion at Miami early.
Yeah,
early. I knew that. Coach Johnson said one particular thing to me where that stuck out to me pretty good. He said anybody can be ordinary. He said, but it takes courage to excel.
Extraordinary.
So that filtered in real early.
Then in 1990, your senior year, the team was ranked number 1. You ended up losing your first game that season to BYU. Tell me what happened, because it was an interesting story that's going to be in your book. Tell me what happened when you came back home to campus.
Well, first of all, it was always concerning to the team that we were losing to colleges that were religious, Notre Dame, BYU. So, we had to check ourselves a little bit as a team because, we felt like the wrath of God was upon us. But we weren't supposed to lose that game in 1990 to BYU, but we couldn't stop Ty Detmer in that particular game or whatever. Everything just rolled in effect. But when I came home, man, the city turned. Well, first of all, when we came home, our student body trashed our dorms. Okay, we had shown them so much love for so many years,
and only one game.
And one game, all right, one game we got trash on the stairs. We got a bust out window. Somebody lit our kicker's bike on fire, but that was the easy part. The part that hurt us the most is it was back in the day when we had message machines, where we had the phone connected to the message.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I remember one particular time I went in and said, "You have 25 messages." I'm like, 25 messages? First message hit, dude. Hey, sirs, what you so BB? I mean, this is the former players just lighting into us, lighting into our ass. How y'all lose? What? Next message, same thing, same thing. And then when you go out into the city was upset as well. I mean, I know this one particular time I used to go to this barbershop. And anytime I go in the barbershop, man, they say, "Hey, man, Searcy, we got you right here. Swipe the chair off, whatever. So I went to this one particular time to the barbershop thinking, I was going to get the same love, barber told me wait in line. I said, what's going on? He said, "Y'all lost to BYU." He said, "You want to wait in line like everybody else?" I said, "This is punishment."
Wow.
I said, "Wow."
You should get encouragement, right?
You know what I'm saying? No, not in Miami. Not back in those days.
Not in Miami.
No, not in Miami.
That senior year, too, you also took more of a leadership role. Explain that.
Well, in 90, when
as a senior, you took more of a leadership role then.
Yeah, you know what? I was always, I used to call myself a silent assassin. All right, I wouldn't say much to you, but you kind of saw my actions on the field, how I conducted myself, what it was to be a Miami Hurricane. I knew I needed to take more of a leadership role because most of the guys that were on the line at that particular time were young. And I was the more established lineman going into my senior year as an All-American. Mm-hmm. So I had to try to lead by example. What I wanted them to filtrate was my toughness, my leadership, my commitment. And if we saw a younger guy falling out of line, we had to check him because you wanted to keep that tradition of winning going on. So you got to raise that puppy to be a pit.
You also did keep your grades up through your whole career at Miami. What were you actually studying and what was your major?
My major was sociology. Okay. To be quite honest with you, I majored sociology so I could survive in Miami. Because initially I went there as a business major. Yeah. And I took the statistics class one time. I only went to business with my mom. She was also a business major. And I struggled. My freshman year, I took the statistics class. I told my mom I'm not going to make it here in business. So I went to sociology. Okay. So, yeah.
Anything you did with that degree later in life or not really?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. Mm-mm. Like most people. In 92, then, you were drafted first round pick by the Steelers. Mm-hmm. What the question that I have is, with your high school coach, Johnson, Chris Johnson, right? Jim Johnson. Jimmy Johnson. With your high school coach, he actually took a job with the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And your dad was a Cowboy fan. So how didn't you end up with the Cowboys and how did you end up with the Steelers?
Well,
right.
My draft day was very interesting.
Yeah.
1992. It was probably in April. This one in the draft was like at noon. I mean, now it's prime time, 8 o'clock on ESPN, all that kind of, but my particular time, 28 years ago, the draft was at 12 o'clock. So Jimmy Johnson, 2 years earlier, had told us that he was going to the Cowboys. All right. So, but Jimmy always knew the caliber of players that were on this team that he wanted to particularly go after. Yeah. Because a year before, there was a defensive tackle named Russell Maryland that he got first overall. So I went to the draft the next year, and I wasn't anticipating Cowboys getting me, but I knew Jimmy was out there, so it might be a chance. So we go into the draft. Me and my dad, we wake up early, walk the neighborhood to kind of reflect on where I came from. Come back to the house, there's media people everywhere. But I wouldn't do an interview until I got drafted. Go downstairs about 10:30, I get a phone call. And I knew exactly who it was. Leon. I said, yeah, Coach, what's going on? Coach Johnson, how you doing today? I said, I'm feeling good, Coach. You feel like being a Cowboy? I said, yeah. Are you going to hold out? I said, no, Coach, with the money right, I ain't holding out. Now, my agent was downstairs with my family in the den. So Jimmy Johnson told me that a representative of the Cowboys had just landed in Orlando and was on my way to the house to negotiate my contract. Because Jimmy liked to get guys signed so they wouldn't hold out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the guy comes in the house, big burly white guy, about 6'6", 6'7", got a cowboy hat, boots, has my jersey over his shoulder. All right.
All ready to go.
All ready to go. Goes downstairs, my agent and him, and negotiate my contract. Draft comes on. They get about to the 8th pick in the draft. I get a phone call from the Steelers. Bill Cowell calls me. They say, Leon, we have the 11th pick in the draft. You're going to be a Steeler. Then right before the Steelers picked me, Coach Cowell called me again and said that the Cowboys tried to maneuver and move up so they could pick me at 11, but the Steelers wouldn't do it. So came out with the 11th pick in the draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Leon Searcy. Everybody in the house erupts, goes up and down, it goes crazy and stuff like that. So I'm excited, whatever. So the Cowboy representative takes a piece of paper, rips it up, the contract.
Yeah.
He's about to walk out the door. So I asked the Cowboy guy, I said, hey, man, I said, that jersey says Searcy 73 on it. I said, let me get that jersey before you leave. And he turned to me and said, look, so you're a Steeler now, son. So the Cowboy never give a Steeler nothing.
Ooh.
I said, get your ass out of my house.
Again, it's this last minute decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's good to know because we were wondering why not a Cowboy, right?
Yeah, well, I was almost
why not a Cowboy. Now, you played for the Steelers from 92 to 96. What's your best memory playing for the Steelers? If you have to pick one.
My best memory? Wow. So many memories. It's hard to say one's my best memory. Yeah, one that sticks out. Well, initially when we won the AFC Championship game against the Colts, and we were going to Bill Cowell was going to his first Super Bowl because just the year before, we were the number one seed, and the San Diego Chargers came into our house and beat us and went to a Super Bowl. So the very next year we recommitted ourselves and we got to the Super Bowl. So just being on the field, knowing that collectively we had won, the AFC Championship game and we're going to a Super Bowl, that was an amazing feeling.
Okay, awesome. After playing for the Steelers, you ended up in Jacksonville, and that was from 96 till 2001. Mm-hmm. And today you're still involved with the Jaguars. Mm-hmm. So does Jacksonville feels more like a home for you than Pittsburgh, or you kept lingering there, I guess?
Well, you know what? I tell people all the time when they ask me the situation between the Steelers and the Jaguars, I say I was born a Steeler but raised a Jaguar. I mean, Jacksonville is probably where I had most of my success, my professional success as a Jaguar. So they've always had a piece of my heart, and plus I'm still affiliated with the Jaguars in some capacity. The radio station that I'm on is the flagship station of the Jaguars. Yeah. Last year, I did a color commentary for the Jaguars at preseason games. Mm-hmm. I've got a pretty good relationship with a lot of the people down there. And a lot of my former teammates still live in Jacksonville. So yeah,
all the friends there. Yeah.
Most of my friends are still in Jacksonville. So it's home to me.
Well, I got a Jacksonville jersey.
I see that, man.
It's not yours.
I know it's not mine.
It's after your time.
Yeah, it is a little bit after my time. That's Maurice Jones-Drew now.
Maurice Jones-Drew.
Great player.
So here's the story why I have this jacket. I owned a few medical spas, and we opened one in Jacksonville. So we did Botox and fillers and all the cosmetic procedures and lasers. So we ended up sponsoring the Jacksonville Jaguar cheerleaders, the Roar.
Oh, okay.
And so they came to us for their Botox and their beauty stuff and their laser hair removals and skin tightening procedures.
Okay.
And so we got tickets all season. And they were nice tickets. So I actually attended that year a lot of games.
Okay.
And my daughters were very young at the time too. So I took them to a few games. And they ended up actually going with the Roar on the field one day because you know how they prepare kids. So it was a great experience for my daughters too to actually, be part of the Jacksonville family that year and actually go with the cheerleaders on
That's
the
awesome.
on the thing.
That's awesome.
So and I liked Drew
Right,
that season. Yeah.
Good dude. He's a good dude.
Yeah. All right. So in 2001, you played a season for the Ravens, and then in 2002, you ended up back in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this time for the Dolphins. But you weren't a starter. You were on the injured reserve list. So did you sustain an injury? What happened that last?
Well, I was trying to. The last 2 years, I had missed the season, all season. I missed it with the Jaguars and with the Ravens because of injuries.
Okay.
So I was going to Miami to kind of resurrect myself, sort of sense, because I had all this success and never got injury, and now later on in my career, I'm getting injury after injury after injury. Where you always tell people, Father Time is undefeated. All right, you're going to eventually get old, and the injury is going to catch up with you.
Right.
So that's what happened. I was trying to go to Miami. I had missed 2 years because of injury, and I was going well. I was in shape. I was probably in better shape in Miami than I was my whole career. My weight was down, my strength was up, my 40 was low, and they had me playing, competing for the right guard position, which
it's not your position.
Not my position, but because they had a young tackle named Wade, they had drafted in the 3rd round, offensive lineman. They wanted to establish him there because he was young. He was young.
Yeah.
Whatever. Sure. Yeah. They didn't want me to pose any kind of threat. So I was always out of place at guard, and I struggled there or whatever. And then going into the season, I was going to make the team. But at the last preseason game during warm-ups, I blew out my tricep. So I became, in NFL terms, damaged goods.
Yeah, sure.
So after a while, I just said to myself, it's probably time to just call it a career. I played 11 years.
Yes.
Initially, my agent did say that the Jaguars and the Steelers wanted me to come back, but as a backup role.
Yeah. You had those injuries. Are you suffering any permanent damage now? Is there?
Yeah,
I mean,
I have my days.
Years, yeah.
I have my days. Back, shoulders, elbows, knees.
Like more like of an arthritis type of pain.
Yeah, pains, nagging pains, swelling of the knees.
Yeah,
and then issues with memory every now and then.
You do?
Yeah.
And that's I looked into that a while ago. That's 99% of the football players, that have those little proteins that start aggregating in your brain.
Yeah.
That kind of build up. But you're doing very well.
I'm doing well.
Now, how do you go from the highest paid offensive lineman at that time to living in a motel room?
Well, I could tell you choices. Decisions, circle of friends, bad decisions. I struggle not understanding money and trusting other people to handle your finances.
Did you not have a financial advisor or somebody that controlled your budget at the time?
Well, I had a financial advisor.
But you didn't listen to him?
No, I had a financial advisor who was stealing from me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I hear those stories. I hear those stories all the time.
Yeah, that part. Okay. So, but see, and I struggled with that. I struggled with that for a very, very long time until I came to the conclusion that the reason why I was in those situations is because of the choices I made. I chose those people. I chose that agent, that wife, that financial advisor, all those people. And so
but you trust them.
I was very trusting of it, but I was very naive that they couldn't steal from me. So, but now, I always say, in life, I don't lose. I learn. I learn from it.
Well, that's funny that you say that. That's my motto in my book too. You never lose. You win or you learn.
There you go.
If something goes bad, you learn your lesson, and the next time it happens, it's not going to happen again.
Keep it moving.
You probably learn another lesson though, but you keep moving forward, right? With all that stuff, the things that was there gambling involved too?
No. As much as as much money as I've lost, I've never lost a gambling.
Okay.
Never lost a gambling.
So that wasn't it. It was just purchasing expensive stuff.
It was an extravagant lifestyle, and not only extravagant lifestyle, but taking care of everybody. The biggest problem I ever had with people was that I never learned how to tell them no. I always felt like I owed them something for being in my life.
So you gave a lot.
I gave
Everybody came asking, you just kept giving.
God, everybody came. Listen, there used to be times when I would be in the parking lot and I would have family and friend members that knew that I got paid on a particular day, and they would be in the parking lot waiting for me to write a check.
And you did.
And I did.
Yeah. That would be me. I've done those things too.
Oh.
Now, what have you been doing since your retirement in 2003? Because it's been a while now.
It's been a while.
Years.
It's been 17 years. Well, initially, my retirement, I went into coaching. I was an offensive line coach at this college called FIU. I was there for 3 years.
Where's that?
FIU is actually in Miami.
In Miami.
There, it's in Miami. There was a small Division II school when it started off. Eventually, then they moved to Division I for more money. Our office was a 4 by, what is it called? 2 by mobile home on cinder
really?
blocks. Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, they're doing better now. But
hopefully some AC.
Oh
in there.
yeah. It was a mobile home on cinder blocks initially, but now they're doing better. But then after I got out of coaching, well, I didn't get out of coaching. It was I was fired by my teammate, but that's for the book. I went into sports talk radio. I went into sports talk radio. I was doing that initially for about 5 years, on and off, weekend stuff, whatever.
Was that in Miami?
That was in Miami. That was in Miami. And then after that, along with my sports talk, I was training offensive linemen. Agents would call me up, said they wanted to get their kid ready for the pro day or the combine. I would train them or whatever. So I stayed active. Some involvement in sports, whatever. And then, just a few years later, a good friend of mine got me up here to Jacksonville to do sports talks, and that's what I do now.
And that's where you live, and that's what you still do today.
That's what I still do.
Right. Excellent. What event in your life, doesn't even have to be football, but it probably will be, what event in your life had the most impact on you, and how did it change your life? Like one of those lessons, probably.
I tell you what, one event in my life that probably changed me the most is probably, it was it affected me dearly. It was when my kids were in Jacksonville. They were small at this particular time, and I remember my wife, who I'd been cheating on at that particular time, was telling me that she was taking my kids away from me because the disrespect that I was showing to her. Because of the woman that I was dating, I was flaunting her around.
And this was while you were in Jacksonville?
Yes, I was flaunting her around, taking her out. People were seeing us out or whatever. And I remember her being in the car and seeing my two daughters in the backseat of the car, and my daughters hugging me and kissing me, and one of my daughters offering me her milk when she was little, and to see them drive off. That right Awakening. There, that blew me away. That was sad.
Because you took it for granted.
No, I took it for granted. When I take it for granted is that I could have said "Don't go" and made it work, but I chose not to.
Mm-hmm. You didn't even fight it.
No, because I was
the celebrity.
I was, and I felt because I was a celebrity,
living the life,
I could do what I wanted to do, and that no one could change that for me.
And so how is your relationship with your daughters now?
Oh, I love my daughters. Yeah. They love me, but they're still scarred from daddy not being there early on. And that's why I try to, whatever they ask of me now, I don't say no.
Yeah, sure.
I don't say no because I there's a part of me where that guilt of not being there when they were younger, bothers me.
Yeah, and you can't get that time back either.
No, you can't.
So,
you can't.
Do they have any children? Are you a grandpa
No,
yet?
not yet. Not yet. No, not in a hurry.
Okay. All right. You're not in a hurry, right?
No, not in a hurry.
Me neither. What advice, and this is the last thing we'll do, what advice can you give to young football players, based on your experiences? What would you tell those guys? And it's probably already a different scene than it used to be when you were playing. Yeah. But what?
Well, I would tell them first and foremost to be conscious of the people that are in your circle. Be conscious of who you associate with and who you trust. Secondly, save your money, your damn money. All right. And everybody you don't owe everybody a blessing. Learn how to say no. Mm-hmm. All right. You got to prepare like the next game could be your last. So put money away, invest
and it
wisely.
could be injury.
Yes, invest wisely. And don't buy to impress, because half the stuff that they buy to impress people ain't really paying attention to you anyway.
Yeah.
And then, you don't want to buy stuff or buy luxuries to impress people, because then you don't know why they're there.
Yeah.
Are they there for you, or are they there for the stuff that you have?
You won't know, right?
You won't know.
You
and
won't
learn
know.
how to say no.
Yeah. That's your biggest
learn
lesson.
Learn how to say no. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away from toxic relationships and toxic people. Yeah. Just learn how to say no to people.
No, and I think, though, I'm always impressed, though, when I watch sports and stuff like that. I always learn, though, that many NBA players, football players, yes, they make a lot of money, maybe even too much money. But, I also see many of them are really involved with charities and are giving back to the communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Listen, I've always been a giver.
Yeah.
Even when I got drafted, I told my mom the first thing I wanted to do was start my foundation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always been.
You still have a foundation?
I'm putting one together now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Mm-hmm. All right. Excellent. So that was a little bit of an introduction to a very interesting autobiography of Leon Searcy that will be coming out hopefully next month. The title is 4 Down and Damn, the story of a lineman. So look out for this. It's going to be a great read. And thank you so much, Leon, for being here today.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right. Take it easy.